Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, Dave Roberts had his first locker room speech to the entire team on the first day of full squad workouts in spring. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the remaining free agents, and not so much from the point of view of who the Dodgers might sign. I think they're probably close to done, but who could sign in the National League West and maybe change the complexion of the division. And then we will talk about the fact that the Dodgers are getting new City Connect uniforms and what those might look like. That's what's on tap. So let's get Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Dodger fans, this is Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks to our everydayers for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Remember, this show is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And please subscribe wherever you're watching or listening right now. My name is Jeff Snyder. That guy next to me is my co-host, Vince Samperio. Vince and I are both lifelong Dodger fans, just like a lot of you. We've also both spent time covering the Dodgers in the press box and the locker room, so we're not quite insiders, but we bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. And Vince, it was a fun day in Dodgers camp. It was the first full squad workouts. We got fun Valentines from the Dodgers social media team. That was a fun and cheesy video, and Gavin Lux was the only one really to totally call them out on their cheesiness, but everybody seemed to enjoy that. That was a fun video. Dodger social media team continued to do a good job, and as is tradition, Dave Roberts gave his first locker room speech to the team as they gathered for their first workouts, and there was some it was an interesting tone. Like Roberts seemed to kind of unspokenly acknowledge the star power in the room and the fact that the Dodgers had a huge offseason with free agents and trades and everything. And the fact that the Dodgers on paper, it's a crazy talented team. And what he said was that everybody in the room prepares differently. And his challenge isn't so much to say, here's how you should prepare, but to say, however you prepare, step it up and take that to the next level, because ultimately his goal as the manager is for every player on the team to want that key at bat in the ninth inning with the game on the line, or to be on the mound with the game on the line, or on defense to want the ball hit to you with the game on the line. And the key to that is preparation. So I thought it was an interesting tone that he took. Did you read it the same way I did? It was kind of like a nod to the fact that he's surrounded by superstars in that locker room.
I didn't quite read it that way. I kind of felt like, who is he calling out type of deal? Not in a bad way, but just, for him to kind of come in that way. And we know, like, the Dodgers are expected to be, World Series and everything else. And that's kind of been the expectation. Obviously a little bit different this year than years past in the sense of the superstars that they do have and all the moves that they did make. But it was one of those, for me thinking, who didn't want the ball, or who didn't want that at bat, or who didn't want the ball hit to them last year. And, not that anybody on the team was not prepared, but like, the kind of mentality was, not be complacent, I guess, was kind of what I got from it, where, everyone prepares differently, but let's prepare better. And I think that's kind of what the complacency comes in of. Yeah, we've been here before. We've won a lot of games, and when it mattered, we didn't necessarily come through when we needed it. And whether he believes it's for that reason, or he just wanted to say that and kind of make sure everyone has that same mentality of when the game matters, there's going to be points. I think for me, it was more of like there's going to be points through the season, in the postseason, where the game is going to matter, and it's going to come down to you, and are you prepared for it? And again, we'll never know if it's really him thinking there was people like that, or him just kind of come out and say, hey, everybody in here has the ability to come up at some point. And I mean, he even mentioned Miguel Vargas's name in the speech with some of the other superstars and everybody else about, like, who prepares and everything else. So, it was interesting for sure. and definitely been, I think overall being a nod to what they have in there and to not be complacent with it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't read it as at all as him calling me out. For me, it was more of a set expectations early, like a pre-calling out, so that I don't have to call anybody out. We remember a couple of years ago, 2021, I think it was, when he kind of did call people out. It was late April, early May, somewhere, and he kind of said we didn't take the at bats that we needed to take, and I think it was an extra inning game or late in the game anyway, and he kind of called out his team, and they went on a roll after that. Yeah, for me, I read this more as like, setting expectations, because the fact is, there are a lot of people on the team who have never been managed by Dave Roberts before, and who have not been the part of these 110 game winning Dodger teams. And so setting those expectations early, and maybe there is some of, whether he had anybody specific in mind, but saying it in a way that, will kind of hopefully help guys be introspective and say, okay, do I need to step it up? Because the fact is, there's some guys who don't need to step up their preparation. Like, I assume for Shohei Ohtani to be as elite as he is on both sides of the ball, he's pretty darn good at setting a schedule and following that schedule and being prepared. And, he's probably also the guy who one of the most likely ones to think, okay, what could I do better? Because that's how you get that good, is by always trying to get better. But it's kind of a funny bell curve or whatever it is, that, the better you are, the less you need the speech, but the more likely you are to take it to heart, because that's how you get that good, is by taking that kind of thing to heart. And so, yeah, it will be interesting to see if some of the, I think Vargas's name was mentioned just because Roberts realized mid-sentence that he was only mentioning superstars, and then he saw Vargas's face, Vargas too, but yeah, there probably were some guys in that room, and we got to remember there's also, there's non-roster guys in there. There's guys whose names we're never going to hear this year, and those guys who are going to spend the year in AAA, they really do need that, to, how am I going to get to the big leagues? How can I become like Mookie and Freddie and Shohei and those guys? And so they need that as much as anybody.
Yeah, I like that pre-calling now more so than maybe calling anybody out, especially with Roberts and kind of Boyne. But yeah, like I said, it's one of those, and, with all the comments kind of from the Dodgers guys last year, Mookie and his thoughts on, last season not finishing and kind of being focused on that. And, Muncy acknowledging that, they just weren't good. They sucked, he said. And, Freddie talking about how, it's still, the taste is still there. The bad taste is still there. And, everybody kind of getting to that point, like I said, where what to do. And it's funny because Muncy and Freddie and Mookie have all won World Series. So it's not like, they're not coming in prepared. There's a lot of guys in the room that have won World Series, a lot of guys in the room that haven't, not that any of them are any different in terms of preparedness, but just kind of knowing that, hey, we're the Dodgers, things are a little bit different here, and you need to kind of expect to be in that situation or want to be in that situation and not shy away from it. And I think, it's one of those where it feels like when I was in art history class and you're trying to, the teacher's telling you, oh, the artist was thinking this and this and this. And it's like, we really don't know that. I would imagine, I don't think it's written anywhere, or they've said, I don't think there's quotes from, Renaissance era artists that are telling us exactly why they painted it this way and everything else, but it's funny to interpret. And it's one of those things to interpret here. And I think in a backhanded way, it kind of felt too like, the eyes are on us, we've kind of gotten the Ohtani show already with the media and everything else in terms of people actually at camp or at interviews and things of that nature. And then also, the Dodgers have been that team with the target on their back before, but, Mookie acknowledged it, and it'll continue to get acknowledged that it's a little bit different this year.
Yeah. And yeah, the one thing we know about Dave Roberts, his greatest skill as a manager is his people skills. And so I think a big part of that is setting expectations so that you don't have to call guys out. You set the expectations ahead of time, and that eliminates a lot of problems. It's parenting 101 too. And so Dave Roberts, I imagine he's probably a pretty good dad too. But with all the target on the Dodgers' backs, there's still some big name free agents out there who could sign with Some teams that the Dodgers will be playing a lot. We're going to come back in a minute. We're going to talk about those free agents and how they might fit in the National League West. So thanks for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen, and please keep it Locked On Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Buying tickets for any event, whether it's a sporting event or a concert or a comedy show or a theater event, it can be the most frustrating thing because there's so many different places you can get tickets. How do you know if you're getting the best price? How do you know what the view is from your seat? Like, just looking at a seat map, it's hard to tell. Am I going to be able to see the comedian up on the stage or whatever? So the best way that I've found to overcome all those frustrations is Gametime, because they have pictures so you can see what the view will be from your seat. They have tickets to all the events that you might want. And the best part is they have the best price guarantee. The Gametime guarantee means that you will always get the best price. And if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. I've put that to the test. I've told you guys before, when I went and saw Nate Bargatze in Salt Lake last year, I bought my tickets on Gametime, but not before I checked every other ticket site there was, and I compared prices, and Gametime easily had the best price. So that's how they give you that guarantee, is just by making sure you're going to have the best price. They'd go bankrupt if they weren't backing it up, and they do a really good job of backing it up. So best deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, sometimes even an hour after it starts. So it is the place to find tickets, whether it's the last minute or not. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app and create an account and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Hey, we're back. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, especially our everydayers. If you're not an everydayer, please become one by watching or listening every weekday morning. If you're watching this on YouTube, we would love to hear your thoughts in the YouTube comment section. That is very helpful for us. Having comments, interaction on YouTube helps other people see the show too, who maybe aren't subscribers, and then maybe they'll become everydayers too. You can also help us out by becoming a Locked On Dodgers insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. And for just a few bucks a month, you can join our texting club where you'll get text messages from us. You can text back and forth with us individually. It's a lot of fun. So go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. And check out the two 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles. They cover the whole sporting world, whether you're focused on everything or just Los Angeles. There's something for you there in those streaming channels. And with that said, there's free agents left on the MLB market. Spring training has started for everybody. Pitchers and catchers just reported for a lot of teams. Because the Dodgers and Padres start the season earlier, so they reported earlier. But everybody now is in, every team has started spring training. And there are still free agents on the board, including 4 of the top 8-ish free agents going into the season, at least according to The Athletic. Numbers 4, 5, 6, and 8 are all still on the market. Unsurprisingly, they're all represented by Scott Boras, as is the next highest one, number 24. I think JD Martinez is represented by Boras, isn't he? So the top 5 free agents left are all Scott Boras clients. We've talked about that a little bit, but the angle that we haven't talked about is how these guys could impact the National League West, possibly. You've got Cody Bellinger, obviously former Dodgers MVP and Rookie of the Year, elite center fielder at times in his career, also plays first base. It's tough to tell what teams think about his defensive future, and maybe more importantly, what teams think about his offensive future, because he did have a bounce back year last year, but he's had some really lousy years recently. And then the other big position player is Matt Chapman, an elite defensive third baseman who has had good offensive years at times and less good offensive years at times. I guess let's talk about those two first, and then any other position players who come to mind. It seems like the Giants could be a decent fit for some of these guys, although the Giants have made some moves recently, and so maybe they've moved away from these big names. But Matt Chapman at third base in San Francisco could be a decent fit, right?
Yeah, I think I looked up the other day that their projected third baseman right now is like Wilmer Flores. I know they probably have other people on that roster that might make more sense. They just picked up Jorge Soler, so that'll be DH. Their outfield is set in itself of Young Ho Lee and Yastrzemski and Conforto. Although if you added Bellinger to that, I'm sure he could start over one of those guys who move other people around. But yeah, I mean, he would make the Giants better. I don't think he makes them good enough to the point where they really threaten the Dodgers. I think it would take 2 of those 4 for us to even consider them a threat to the Dodgers of those top 4. And maybe 3 of those top 4 to even get us thinking like, okay, yeah, they might win 95 games or something like that. So yeah, for me, Chapman to the Giant, I mean, it makes a lot of sense for the Giants. And they've seemingly been willing to spend, and they've upgraded at a few different positions in the offseason, but just not enough to really make me feel other than anything other than they're fighting for third place with the Padres.
Yeah, and then the pitchers, Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery, those guys definitely make sense for the Giants. I'm sure the Giants would love to have one or possibly even both of those guys. Probably unlikely that anybody would sign both of those guys, but it seems like the Giants should be in heavily on one or the other of Montgomery and Snell, right?
Yeah, I mean, you pair one of those guys, or more specifically, Snell. Montgomery is a guy that is going to go out there and give you innings, and in the postseason, he's riding a hot postseason, and that's probably why he's on the sign right now, because that hot postseason, he's trying to turn it into big time money, considering the fact that he's been traded the last couple of years, or two times the last 3-4 years, whatever it is. He's been like a number 3 starter type, but trying to parlay what he is. But if you put Snell and Logan Webb up there 1-2, Kyle Harrison should develop for them. They also have Jordan Hicks, who they're trying to turn into a starter. They got rid of Ross Stripling, got rid of Alex Woods. They got a couple young guys filling in that back end. I mean, right now on one of the websites, they have Logan Webb, Kyle Harrison, Jordan Hicks, Keaton Wynn, and Tristan Beck as their projected starters. So I definitely could use at least one of those guys that's available.
Yeah, it's definitely a prospect heavy rotation. And, 5 years from now, we might look at a name of those 5 guys and say, oh, that's a great rotation. But right now, yeah, there are some question marks there. And one of those guys could solidify it. The other team in the division that's, probably the biggest threat is the D-backs. And I feel like kind of the same thing for the D-backs. Like they have third base options, but I mean, I think it was mostly Jace Peterson and Emmanuel Rivera last year who were playing third base for them.
Yeah, they picked up Eugenio Suarez though.
Oh, that's right. They got Suarez.
Yeah.
So they're probably not in the Matt Chapman market, and they're probably not in the Cody Bellinger market either, because they have a great defensive outfield already, and they have Christian Walker at first base. So I guess if we're looking at the pitchers, though, they have their rotation is better at the top for sure. Zach Gallen, Brandon Pfaadt and Merrill Kelly.
My favorite Merrill Kelly.
Yeah. I do you hear what I just said though? I just acknowledged that Merrill Kelly is good. That's something I never thought I would do, and I hope to never do it again. But one or the other of those 2 lefty starters could be a decent fit in Arizona.
Yeah, they also picked up Eduardo Rodriguez over the offseason. So, they could fill out with one of those 2 guys. They definitely fill out a full rotation that, competes for best in the league, assuming Brandon Pfaadt continues to take that step forward that he kind of made in the postseason, and having that confidence that he had from that success for them. I mean, if they added Blake Snell, that would be a devastating top 3, for sure. I don't think it would make me really worried about the regular season as much, but again, it would come down to postseason. And, when the guy that was your game 3 starter might not even start any games in the postseason, if they did sign Snell and kept everybody healthy, that would be pretty scary.
Yeah. And then there's the Padres, who Blake Snell was a Padre. I guess there's always an outside chance he could go back to the Padres. Montgomery, the Padres pitching is interesting because they've got injured guys. They've got their rotation doesn't scare me,
They literally lost the rotation, and instead of really getting guys that are good starters back. They kind of try to fill it from the back end with the bullpen, and added a couple guys from overseas and trying to fill it that way. They lost Josh Hader, so like they're just a weird team. Like you lose Blake Snell, you lose Seth Lugo, you lose Nick Martinez, you lose those guys, and you haven't really had anything back yet.
Yeah, they got Michael King back in the Juan Soto trade, who they're expecting to be a starter. He's been a reliever most of his career, but did pitch well as a starter last year. Obviously, there's no one for Matt Chapman on the Padres. Have you looked at the Padres 40-man roster lately? Guess how many outfielders are on the Padres 40-man roster right now?
3 now, if Profire's official.
Profire's not official yet. Yeah, okay. Once they have Profire, there will be 3 outfielders on their 40-man roster. Do you think there's any chance Cody Bellinger ends up in San Diego?
You would think no, just based on the way that they've kind of anti-spent this, or, kind of traded Juan Soto, let Snell walk, let Hader walk. They signed a few guys, but, mostly smaller deals, not any big money. But I wouldn't put it past him to try and get him, especially if his numbers drop, the figures of the deal drop a little bit more, if he's willing to take another 1-in-1 option year or something like that. I could see it possible. And I don't think it changes much, but it definitely, like I said, they were going to start, or they are starting Jose Azocar right now. I know that Brandon Merrill is one of their young
Jackson
Merrill. He's supposed to work in the outfield and get a shot at making the opening day roster. But again, you're putting guys that have either never played in outfield in the majors and a guy that is not that good.
Yeah. I was going to bring that up, that, saying they only have 3 outfielders on their 40-man roster kind of oversells what they have, because one of them is Jose Azocar, who he couldn't hit even in the minor leagues. Like, he's not a good hitter. He's probably a good defender since he made the big leagues, despite not being able to hit. We haven't really seen, we've seen some defense from him. We've seen some funny plays by him.
I mean, it's so bad that even their own manager said that he joked, but I'm sure he's not joking, that he was going to hit Tatis 2nd and 7th and have him play center and right field. And, that was to media reporters. So, yeah, it's pretty down bad right now.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, Bellinger, especially if Bellinger gets to the point where he is interested in another 1-year deal, to try the market again next year. Seems like Scott Boris's job might be on the line if Bellinger ends up taking another 1-year deal. But you know what? We'll see. Any other thoughts on these free agents in the NL West before we move on?
I think it would take adding 2 and for sure 3 to any of the teams behind the Dodgers right now to make them as formidable as challenging them for the title, for the NL West title at least.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, we're going to come back in a minute. We're going to talk about what the Dodgers are going to look like on the field this year, because they have new City Connect uniforms coming. So please keep it locked on Dodgers. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. And remember, FanDuel isn't just betting on who's going to win a game. There's all sorts of fun stuff you can bet on. If you're into the NBA, there's all sorts of, how many points will player X score, or you can do parlays. If player X and player Y both score 15 points, things like that. You can get as creative as you want with your bets. And like I said, only $5 on a bet. And if you win, boom, $150 in bonus bets. So bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Hey, Dodger fans, we are back. Thank you again for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning. Please become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Please comment on this if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube, we will give you all our contact info at the end of the show, like we always do. Be sure to check out the 2 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Sports Today, and Locked On Sports Los Angeles. And with that said, Vince, we got word the other day that the Dodgers are one of 9 teams getting new City Connect jerseys, uniforms this year. We actually talked briefly about that possibility a couple weeks ago. I brought it up just in the context of the Dodgers City Connects that they've had for a few years now are kind of tied in fans' minds a little bit to Julio. The Dodgers wore them pretty much every time Julio pitched, and he was their big Mexican-born star. There's a big Mexican fan base in Los Angeles, and the City Connect jersey it was basically focused on that Spanish-speaking, but especially Mexican and Mexican-American group of Dodger fans. And I don't know if getting a new City Connect has anything to do with separating themselves from the image of Julio as he's going through the stuff that he's in trouble with. But if not, it's kind of a happy accident, huh?
Yeah, I'd be curious to hear because I don't know if the Dodgers can make that request. They're going to be the first team to have 2 City Connects. There's the Yankees and A's are going to go through this season and still not have one. The A's make sense because they're not connected to a city so much right now. The Yankees, I guess, want to keep that tradition. But yeah, for the Dodgers, it's interesting in that aspect. They've had already gone away from most of the actual, whole ensemble of the City Connect. They didn't wear the blue pants anymore with it. They just kind of wore the jersey. I don't even know. They don't even wear the hat that they started with the first season. I think they would just wear the regular hats, right, last year.
I don't remember. I think they were still wearing the hats with the black bill, but I actually don't remember for sure.
Yeah, but either way, it's interesting for sure. And if the other part is what we didn't mention is what's going to be on that sleeve of that City Connect jersey.
Yeah, and all their jerseys. The Dodgers have a sponsor patch now, and it is Guggenheim, the owners of the Dodgers. And we've talked a little bit at various times about how Guggenheim has been more visible this offseason with the free agent press conferences and everything, especially with Shohei Ohtani, and that extends now. They're officially getting the patch on the sleeve. Probably, I think, the first team to have a sponsor patch that is the owner of the team, huh?
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember any other things. And, I saw some people kind of saying that, well, there was a lot of different opinions on social media. But I did see a lot of they can do whatever they want after the offseason they just had. And, sponsorships are all different because for Guggenheim, you're not going to a store and buying Guggenheim, clothing, at least not yet. Maybe the Dodgers team store might have it soon, but what they're promoting and what they get out of it is bigger than products or anything like that. Obviously, they're a company that focuses on big money stuff, and there's a lot of big money in Japan. And if you see every Shohei Ohtani jersey that's bought moving forward, and Yamamoto jersey and any other jersey is going to have that Guggenheim there, and that's where it makes a lot of sense for them.
Yeah, and honestly, I think they look good. The Guggenheim logo on the press conference backdrops, I think it almost looks just kind of slapped on, like here's this logo and let's put it in there. But the patch, color wise, it looks good, and I think if you didn't know it was a sponsor patch, it would be, I think it blends in just fine. I'd be fine if they had the McDonald's golden arches on their shoes. I really don't care. And I love the Dodgers uniform, but I don't know. I don't get as upset about uniform things as some people do, and definitely not about this one. I think it's great. When it was kind of a foregone conclusion that they were eventually going to have a sponsor patch on the jersey, I think this is about as good as we could have hoped for.
Yeah, I think really the only team that you've kind of noticed about the power, at least that I noticed, was the Mets, and that's only because the patch was so huge, and then they adjusted it after a while, made it a little bit smaller. I don't even know what brand it was. I think maybe
it was a hospital, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was insurance or something like that. But yeah, maybe a hospital. And the Guggenheim one is like borderline. Just it's hard to make a diamond shaped patch the right size because it's the way it's shaped is odd on the shoulder, on the shoulder part or below the shoulder part, and it's hard. If you make it too small, you don't know what it is. If you make it too big, it's gets clowned. But yeah, we'll see. It didn't look too bad definitely doesn't look too bad on the blue jerseys for spring training because you could barely notice it. We did see a picture of it on the white jersey. It didn't look too bad. And yeah.
Yep. And rolling back to the City Connects, I did confirm they were wearing the City Connect hats that say Los Dodgers on the side and have the black bill. I found pictures of Julio pitching. And the pants, as you mentioned, it wasn't just their regular white pants. I think they officially changed the City Connect uniform so it was white pants, but with blue piping down the side, which their regular pants don't have. So yeah, they changed it, less of the pajama look or the slow pitch softball look or whatever you want to call it with the full color uniforms. You have any thoughts on what the new City Connects could or should look like?
Yeah. No, I have no idea. I know I saw someone mention, kind of how the Dodgers changed the seats at Dodger Stadium with the colors, kind of from the sand, the water and the sand and the sky and everything else. I think that's way too much color. I don't know how you would incorporate that. And with the Dodger brand, it's kind of hard to see anything, too crazy. And when you think of LA, like there's so much to think about, but it's hard to kind of all get it into one. So I honestly have no idea what they're going to do.
Yeah, it's when we think about like the Padres just went totally away from their color scheme for their City Connects and they look kind of ridiculous. I'm sure it's fun. And I think they probably sell a lot of them. And I think casual fans, I mean, there's kids on my son's baseball team who are quote unquote Padre fans because they like Tatis and they all wear the Padres City Connect hats because,
this is where our ages differ. I'll actually like that color scheme.
Yeah, but would you like it if the Dodgers did that?
Yeah, but I wouldn't wear it.
And that's what I'm saying, that it's so different from the team's look. I don't think it's bad looking as far as baseball uniform goes. It just nothing says Padres about it, and so I don't think the Dodgers are going to go that far away from that. One of the things I saw that it would be kind of interesting because it seems like Dodger fans kind of bristle at the Hollywood thing sometimes. And, Hollywood isn't all of Los Angeles, but seems like the team kind of embraces it a little bit. So I wonder if we'll get Dodgers across the front, like the Hollywood sign, something like that. And maybe, the skyline in the background or something. It seems like I would guess they'll go away from the Spanish just because that's what the last one was. But yeah, I would expect some sort of Hollywood theme would be my guess.
Because the Hollywood Star, they'd have a game, right? Like the Hollywood Stars game where celebrities would go play and they'd have those special jerseys. So I could see something like that where playing off of that, whatever that was.
Yeah. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see. We don't have a date yet. Those get introduced throughout the season. So we don't know when the Dodgers.
We know it'll be before the All-Star break because all 9 are going to be announced before the All-Star break.
Okay. So yeah, sometime in the next few months, we will find out what it looks like and that'll be fun. So we'll revisit it then. I think that does it for us for today. You got anything else, Vince?
Nothing else.
All right. Thank you all for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen every weekday morning, especially our everydayers. You can become an everydayer by watching and listening every weekday morning. And the easiest way to do that is to subscribe wherever you are watching or listening right now. Or in fact, if you're listening, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube too. And if you're watching, go ahead and subscribe in a podcast app too. It's more fun that way for us. You can become a Locked On Dodgers insider by going to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnDodgers. Text back and forth with us, get our thoughts before you get the podcast. It's a lot of fun. It's just a few bucks a month and there's a free 14-day trial. You can also check out the 2 24/7 streaming channels on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network, Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Sports Los Angeles. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Locked On Dodgers. Vince is on Twitter at VinceSense91. I'm on Twitter at Snydog. You can also email us, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or send us a voicemail or a text message to 323-863-LOCK 5625. We are here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be here with us. When you get in your car or sit on your couch, tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.